The morning sun sparkled on the Pacific Ocean as the U.S. Thunder cut through the waves. Captain James Walker stood on the bridge, watching his crew prepare for their routine firing exercises. It was supposed to be a normal day of naval drills. It turned out to be anything but normal. "Sir, we're picking up something strange on radar," the young radar operator said, his eyes fixed on the screen. It's moving too fast to be an aircraft." Walker grabbed his binoculars and looked up at the clear blue sky. At first, he saw nothing. Then a shimmer appeared, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. The shimmer grew larger and took shape. His jaw dropped as a massive silver vessel, smooth as polished chrome, appeared from thin air. "All stations, battle positions," Walker ordered, keeping his voice steady despite his racing heart. "But do not, I repeat, do not engage unless fired upon." The alien ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of his vessel. It hung in the air, defying gravity, and glowed with a soft blue light. Before Walker could give another order, every screen on the bridge lit up with the same message. "Greetings, Earth vessel. We come in peace." The message repeated in 20 different languages. Within an hour, the U.S. Thunder's deck became the site of humanity's first official contact with alien life. Military observers from 5 nations had been rushed to the scene. News helicopters circled at a safe distance. Walker stood at attention as a ramp extended from the alien ship and touched down on his deck. 3 figures walked down the ramp. They were tall, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer like their ship. Their ambassador, who introduced himself as Scan, wore flowing robes covered in symbols that seemed to move on their own. "We represent the Galactic Council," San announced, his words somehow perfectly translated into English. "We have been observing your world for some time, and believe you are ready for first contact." Everything went smoothly until they got to the topic of military technology. The Thunder's weapons officer was explaining their defense capabilities when San interrupted with a sound that could only be described as a laugh. "You still use chemical propellants?" San asked, looking at the ship's main guns and solid metal projectiles. He turned to his assistants, making a series of musical sounds that their translators didn't catch. All 3 aliens seemed highly amused. Walker felt his face grow hot, but kept his professional composure. "Our weapons have proven very effective for our needs," he said diplomatically. Of course, Kexan said, waving a long-fingered hand. "Every developing species goes through this phase. We had similar weapons, about 12,000 years ago." The aliens proceeded to show them what they considered real weapons. San pointed a small device at a target drone, and a beam of pure energy reduced it to atoms. Their demonstration continued with force fields that could stop anything, or so they claimed, and sensors that could detect a single bacteria from orbit. "The Council has decided," San announced at the end of the day, "that humanity will be classified as a protected species. We will guide your development and prevent any hostile species from taking advantage of your current technological limitations." Walker noticed how the alien's eyes lingered on the Thunder's gun turrets when he said this. There was something in that look that bothered him, not just amusement, but something closer to relief. As the aliens prepared to leave, San placed a small device in Walker's hand. "A communication unit," he explained. "The Council will send representatives to begin the integration process. And please, don't worry about your defensive capabilities. You're under our protection now." Walker watched the alien ship fade away into the sky. Around him, most people were celebrating humanity's acceptance into a larger galactic community. But he couldn't shake a nagging feeling in his gut. 20 years in the Navy had taught him to trust that feeling. "Sir," his XO asked, noticing his expression. "Everything all right?" Walker kept his eyes on the sky where the alien ship had vanished. "Send a message to command," he said quietly. Tell them I don't like the way they laughed at our guns." The Galactic Council headquarters made Earth's tallest buildings look like children's toys. Tom Reed, Earth's military advisor, tried not to look too impressed as he walked through corridors of shimmering metal. But it wasn't easy. Everything here seemed to glow with its own light, and surfaces shifted colors as he passed. "Your presentation is scheduled to begin shortly," a blue-skinned assistant told him. "The Council is eager to learn about Earth's defensive capabilities." Reed gripped his tablet tighter. After 3 months of preparation, Earth's governments had chosen him to present their military strength to the Council. Captain Walker's warning about the aliens' reaction to human weapons still echoed in his mind. The Council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in rising tiers, like a giant theater. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange Reed couldn't tell which end was their head. Ambassador Xan sat in the front row, wearing those same flowing robes with mooking symbols. "You may begin," the council leader said. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished copper. Reed started his presentation with Earth's best weapons: nuclear submarines, stealth aircraft, guided missiles, and the latest smart weapons. He explained their tanks, artillery, and infantry weapons. The holograms behind him showed everything in perfect detail. The council members started whispering among themselves. Some made those musical laughing sounds that the translators couldn't handle. Reed felt sweat on his forehead, but kept going. "Fascinating," the council leader interrupted. "You've developed quite far with such basic technology. But let us show you real military power." The chamber darkened. A new hologram appeared, showing alien weapons that made Earth's best technology look like toys. Their smallest ships carried guns that could crack planets. Their soldiers wore armor that made them invisible and let them walk through walls. Their rifles fired beams that could melt tanks. "These are just our civilian-grade weapons," one council member said. "Our actual military technology is far more advanced." "Which is why," Ambassador Xan added, "we have classified Earth as a protected species. You'll be safe under our guidance." Then came the rules. Earth couldn't develop energy weapons. Earth couldn't build ships with faster-than-light drives. Earth couldn't make force fields or gravity controls, all for their own protection, of course. "We've seen many young species destroy themselves by developing too quickly," the council leader explained. "These restrictions are for your own good." But something in the leader's voice made Reed think of a bully pretending to be helpful. He noticed how some council members watched him nervously when they thought he wasn't looking. After the presentation, Reed walked through the station's military museum. It showed the history of council weapons, from simple spears to their modern energy guns. But something was missing. "Excuse me," he asked his guide, "did your people ever use gunpowder weapons? Like our guns?" The guide looked uncomfortable. "That information is restricted," she said quickly. "Those were primitive times, not worth discussing." Reed stopped at a window overlooking Earth's solar system. A massive council warship passed by, its energy weapons glowing bright enough to be seen from here. Next to such power, Earth's weapons looked like stone tools compared to modern machines. But Reed remembered something his grandfather, an old soldier, once told him. "Sometimes the old ways work best. That's why we still carry knives, even though we have missiles." His communicator beeped. It was a message from Earth. Pirates had attacked 3 human cargo ships near Mars. The ships had council-approved shields, but somehow the pirates had cut through them like paper. Reed looked back at the council warship. They'd given Earth those same shields, promising they could stop any attack. But if they didn't work? "Sir," the guide asked, "is everything all right?" Reed smiled politely, but his mind was racing. "Just fine," he said, "just thinking about old ways and new." Admiral Smith stood in the dark control room, watching the recording of the pirate attack for the 20th time. The cargo ship's shields glowed blue as the pirates fired their energy weapons. Then, somehow, the pirates cut through those supposedly unbeatable shields like they were made of paper. "Play it again," he ordered. "Slow it down at the moment of shield failure." The screen showed the attack in slow motion. The cargo ship's council-approved shields stopped the energy weapons perfectly. But when the pirates switched to some other weapon, something that didn't glow or flash, the shields did nothing. Interesting, isn't it? Tom Reed walked into the control room, carrying a thick folder. 17 attacks in the past month, all with the same pattern. Smith nodded. The Council claims these are just random pirates, but their ships all use Council technology. And they never attack Council ships, Reed added. Only Earth vessels. 3 months had passed since Reed's presentation to the Council. Earth had followed all the Council's rules, using their approved shields and staying away from restricted technology. But these attacks kept happening. The Council won't help, Smith asked. Reed laughed without humor. They say it's not their problem. We're a protected species, but apparently that doesn't include protection from pirates. Smith turned away from the screen. In the corner of the room, behind locked doors, sat a captured pirate weapon. It had taken the lives of 6 good sailors to get it, but now they had proof something was wrong. "Show me what you found," Smith said. Reed opened his folder. "I've been studying Council history. 1,000 years ago, most species used physical weapons, bullets, missiles, that sort of thing. Then the Council introduced energy weapons and shields. Everyone switched over. Everyone except humans." "Exactly." Reed spread out several papers. They showed drawings of old alien weapons that looked a lot like Earth guns. The Council didn't just encourage energy weapons. They made laws against developing any other kind. Said it was for safety. Smith walked to a wall safe and pulled out a normal Earth pistol. "You think there's a connection? I think we need to test something." They took the captured pirate shield generator to the shooting range deep underground. No one outside Earth's military leadership knew about these tests. They set up the shield and activated it. The blue energy field hummed just like in the videos. "Energy weapon first," Reed said. Smith fired a Council-made energy pistol at the shield. The beam splashed harmlessly against the blue field. Now the Earth gun. Smith loaded the pistol with normal bullets. He aimed carefully and pulled the trigger. The bullet went straight through the shield and hit the target behind it. The shield didn't even flicker. "Just as I thought," Reed said quietly. "Their shields only stop energy weapons. They don't do anything against physical bullets." "Why would they design shields with such a basic weakness?" "Because no one in Council space uses physical weapons anymore." Reed's eyes were bright with understanding. "They've spent so long depending on energy weapons, they've forgotten about the old ways. Maybe they even wanted to forget." Smith looked at the bullet hole in the target. "We need to test this with bigger weapons. Secretly. The Council's watching us closely," Reed warned. "If they catch us, they won't." Smith picked up his phone. "Get me Captain Walker. Tell him to bring his best weapons officers. And tell him—" Smith smiled grimly. "Tell him he was right about those guns." As Reed left to make the call, Smith looked at the Earth pistol in his hand. The Council thought these weapons were primitive, something to laugh at. But soon they might learn an old lesson. Sometimes the simple solutions work best. And somewhere out in space, more pirate ships were gathering, their crews confident in their advanced shields, never suspecting that humanity's primitive weapons might be their biggest weakness. The emergency meeting room under the Pentagon was packed with military leaders from 20 different nations. Admiral Smith stood at the front, pointing to a world map covered in red dots. Each dot showed another pirate attack. "In the past week, these raiders have hit 30 more ships," Smith said. "They're getting bolder. And now we know why." The room's main screen showed pictures of captured pirate ships. They all carried Council technology, but their markings had been painted over. "These aren't real pirates," Captain Walker added. He'd been promoted after his first contact with the aliens. "They're too well organized, too well equipped." "The Council still refuses to help," Tom Reed said from his seat. "They say it's just a local problem. But we've tracked these ships. They're coming from Council space." General Jones from the Air Force stood up. Are you saying the Council is behind these attacks? Yes. Smith's answer made the room go quiet. We think they're testing our defenses, learning our weaknesses, and now they're ready for something bigger. As if on cue, every phone in the room started ringing at once. On the big screen, red dots began appearing over major cities worldwide. Huge ships were appearing in the sky. Hundreds of them. It's starting, Walker said quietly. The raiders didn't attack right away. Instead, they broadcast a message to every TV, radio, and phone on Earth. Your Council protection has failed. Surrender your planet and become our workers, or be destroyed. They're Council ships, Reed pointed out, studying the images, just with their markings removed. This whole protection thing was a trick from the start. Smith stepped forward. Then it's time to use what we've learned. General Torres, show them. General Maria Torres, who had been quietly working in the background for months, stepped up to the screen. We've been preparing, she said, ever since we discovered their shield's weakness. The screen changed to show new weapons. They looked simple, normal guns, tanks, and missiles, but with small changes to make them work in space. They think we're helpless, Torres continued. They've watched us obey their rules, use their shields, play nice. But all this time, we've been getting ready. Every tank, every ship, every plane is now loaded with good old-fashioned bullets and shells, the kind their fancy shields can't stop. What about their energy weapons? Someone asked. We'll take losses, Smith admitted, but they've forgotten how to defend against physical weapons. They don't even think about them anymore. That's our advantage. The question is, Walker said, do we wait for them to attack, or do we show them why they shouldn't have laughed at our guns? The answer came from an unexpected place. The Chinese general stood up. My government offers our full support. All our forces will follow the Combined Earth Command. One by one, other military leaders stood. Russia, Britain, France, India. Every nation agreed. For the first time in human history, all of Earth's armies would fight together. Then it's decided, Smith said. He looked around the room, meeting every eye. We let them think they've scared us. Let them come close, thinking their shields make them safe. And then, we show them what human weapons can do, Torres finished. As they left the room to give their orders, Walker caught up with Smith. Admiral, what if we're wrong? What if they have some other defense we don't know about? Smith smiled grimly. That's the beauty of simple weapons, Captain. What you see is what you get. They spent so long making their weapons fancy, they forgot the basics. He patted his pistol. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Above them, the raider ships hung in the sky like dark clouds, their crews confident in their superior technology, never suspecting that Earth's primitive weapons were about to teach them a very expensive lesson. The raiders struck at dawn. Their ships filled the sky over every major city on Earth, energy weapons glowing with deadly purpose. But the cities below seemed strangely empty. No military response, no resistance, just silence. Where are they? The raider commander demanded, scanning New York's quiet streets. Their weapons are primitive. They should be trying to fight back. His answer came in the form of a single radio message, broadcast on all frequencies. To all raider ships, this is Admiral Smith of Earth's Combined Defense Force. You are ordered to withdraw immediately. The raiders laughed, the sound carrying through their communications. Their ships moved lower, confident in their superior technology. That's when General Torres gave the signal. From hidden positions in the mountains, forests, and seas, Earth's forces emerged. But they didn't charge forward. Instead, they pulled back as if retreating. They're running, a raider captain shouted. Chase them. Don't let them escape. The raider ships followed eagerly, dropping lower and lower to pursue the fleeing human forces. Their sensors showed no significant energy weapons, no spaceships, nothing that could harm their advanced shields. They never saw the trap until it was too late. Now, Taurus commanded. Every hidden gun position opened fire at once. Tanks emerged from camouflaged positions. Ships that had appeared to be simple cargo vessels revealed hidden weapon ports. The sky filled with thousands of simple, solid metal shells and bullets. The raiders' shields flared bright blue, easily stopping the few energy weapons humans still used. But they did nothing against the storm of physical projectiles. Metal slugs tore through their hulls like paper. Impossible, the raider commander shouted as his ship shook. Their weapons are too primitive. But primitive didn't mean ineffective. The raiders had forgotten how to defend against physical weapons. Their hulls, designed to reflect energy beams, offered little protection against good old-fashioned armor-piercing rounds. Captain Walker, commanding a battleship in the Pacific, watched through his binoculars as his ship's main guns fired. The massive shells moved slower than energy beams, but when they hit, the raider ship's shield flickered uselessly as the shells passed straight through, tearing huge holes in its hull. "Keep firing," Walker ordered. "They've nowhere to run." The raiders tried to retreat to higher altitude, but Torres had planned for this. High-altitude missiles, looking like simple rockets to radar sensors, launched from hidden silos. The raiders ignored them, their shields ready to stop any energy attack. The missiles weren't carrying energy weapons. They were carrying clusters of tungsten rods. When the missiles burst, they released clouds of metal that ripped through the raiders' ships at incredible speeds. Ships that had survived countless energy weapon battles fell to simple metal slugs. "This is impossible." The raider commander's last transmission went out to all channels. "You're supposed to be primitive. Your weapons are a joke." "The joke," Smith replied calmly, his thinking that newer always means better. Within hours, the battle was over. The raiders' mighty fleet, which had expected an easy victory over a primitive world, was in ruins. Their surviving ships fled back to space, their crews shocked that their advanced shields had been defeated by weapons they had laughed at just months ago. In the Pentagon's command center, Smith watched the raiders retreat on the big screen. Next to him, Torres was already planning their next move. "They'll be back," she said, "with new defenses." "Let them come," Smith replied. "They spent so long playing with energy beams, they forgot what real weapons can do, and by the time they remember." He smiled as reports of victory came in from around the world. "Well, we're not done teaching them yet." Above them, the sky was clearing of raider ships, leaving only one question. What would the Galactic Council do when they learned their primitive humans had just destroyed their best-equipped fleet? 1 month after Earth's victory over the raiders, the Galactic Council received an unexpected message. "This is General Torres of Earth's Combined Defense Force. We are coming to discuss your protection in person." The council chambers erupted in chaos. The council leader turned to Ambassador San, who had gone pale. "You said they were primitive. You said they couldn't fight back. They were supposed to be helpless," San whispered, watching the screens as human ships appeared at the edge of council space. But these weren't the simple vessels they'd seen before. Earth had been busy. They'd taken the raiders' ships and studied them. Then they'd made them better. The hulls were now thick with traditional armor. Where energy weapons once sat, huge gun barrels pointed into space. Each ship carried both Council technology and Earth's primitive weapons. "They're modifying our technology," a Council member shouted. "That's against the rules." Admiral Smith's voice came through the communication system. "Your rules stopped applying when we found out about your raiders." The Council's defense fleet moved to stop the Earth ships. Their energy weapons flashed, filling space with deadly beams. The Earth ship's shields, copied from Council designs but improved, absorbed the attacks. Then the Earth ships opened fire. Railguns longer than buildings launched metal slugs at incredible speeds. Traditional missiles, updated for space combat, streaked between the stars. Simple metal weapons, the kind the Council had laughed at, tore through their supposedly superior ships. "Impossible," The council leader watched his mighty fleet fall back. "We have the most advanced technology in the galaxy." "Advanced doesn't always mean better," Torres replied. Her ships pressed forward, their hybrid weapons, combining Earth's primitive technology with Council innovations, proving devastatingly effective. The Council's response was predictable. They called for reinforcements. Ships arrived from across their territory, all carrying the same energy weapons, all protected by the same shields, all sharing the same weakness. Tom Reed, now Earth's chief of military technology, watched from the command ship as the Council fleet gathered. "They still don't understand," he said to Walker, who commanded the lead vessel. "They'd spent so long thinking newer is better, they've forgotten the basics of war." "Should we show them?" Walker asked, his hand on the fire control. Reed nodded. "Let's remind them why they once feared simple weapons." The Earth fleet unleashed everything they had. Railguns fired chunks of metal at near-light speed. Missiles released clouds of tungsten pellets that shredded Council ships. Some human vessels even fired old-fashioned naval guns, modified for space, their shells ignoring energy shields completely. The Council's mighty fleet, which had dominated the galaxy for centuries, fell back in disarray. Their sensors, designed to track energy weapons, could barely follow the simple metal projectiles. Their shields, perfect against lasers and plasma, meant nothing against solid slugs. "Stop." The Council leader's voice shook. "We'll negotiate." Torres replied calmly, "That's why we're here. But first, we found something interesting in those raider ships we captured. Want to explain why they had Council military codes?" The chamber went silent. The Council's secret was out. They had sent the raiders themselves, trying to keep humanity protected, which meant controlled. "Other species are watching this," Reed added. "The ones you've been protecting for centuries. They're learning that your advanced technology isn't invincible, that the old weapons you made them forget still work." He was right. Across Council space, other primitive species were already starting to remember their old weapons, starting to question the Council's protection. "We can still destroy you," the Council leader threatened. "We have weapons you've never seen." "Maybe." Smith's voice was calm. "But you forgot something important. Sometimes the old ways work best. Your ships are falling to weapons you thought were jokes, and we're not done teaching you respect for the basics." As if to emphasize his point, another Council ship exploded, torn apart by nothing more sophisticated than a well-aimed metal slug. 1 year after Earth's ships first entered Council space, the Great Council chamber looked very different. New faces filled the seats. Representatives from formerly protected species now stood as equals. And at the center of it all, a simple Earth rifle hung on the wall, its presence a constant reminder of pride's cost. Ambassador Xan shifted uncomfortably in his seat as Captain Walker approached the speaker's platform. The human carried a small wooden box, and Xan knew what was inside. He'd learned about Earth's customs of marking important treaties. "The new charter is ready for signing," Walker announced. Around him, hundreds of species, both Council and former protected races, watched intently. "Earth will join the Council as a full member, with all rights that implies." "And your weapons?" the Council leader asked carefully. The old leader had been replaced after the war, but the new one still struggled with human ways. "We'll share them," Walker replied, "along with the shield improvements we developed. It's time the galaxy remembered that new doesn't always mean better." General Torres, standing nearby, nodded in agreement. The past year had seen enormous changes. After Earth's victory, other protected species had quickly remembered their own primitive weapons. The Council's power, built on keeping others dependent on their technology, had crumbled. "The age of protection is over," Torres announced. "From now on, all species develop as they choose. No more artificial restrictions. No more forced dependence on energy weapons only." Tom Reed stepped forward next, holding up a data tablet. "We've already begun working with other species, combining old and new technologies. simple kinetic weapons with advanced targeting, traditional armor enhanced with energy shields. The best of both worlds. The council members muttered among themselves. Some still couldn't believe their perfect energy weapons had been defeated by simple metal projectiles. But the proof hung on their wall. That Earth rifle had punched through their best shields as if they weren't there. "There's one more tradition to observe," Walker said. He opened the wooden box and removed an old Earth revolver, polished to a mirror shine. With careful steps, he approached Ambassador Xan. "On Earth," Walker explained, "old enemies who become friends often exchange gifts. This is for you." Xan stared at the revolver. "The weapon you used to defeat our greatest chips." "No," Walker smiled. "This is just a simple gun. A reminder that simple things can still be powerful. And that laughing at something you don't understand is never wise." Xan took the revolver with trembling hands. "We were so sure we knew everything. That our way was the only way. That's why we're changing the council," Smith added from his new seat among the leadership. "No more protected species. No more forcing everyone to use the same technology. The galaxy is stronger when we learn from each other." Admiral Smith stood to deliver the final words. "Let this be recorded in the Council's history. Earth joins not as a protected species, but as a full partner. And let that gun on the wall remind everyone that pride and progress aren't the same thing." As the new charter was signed, Reed turned to Torres. "Think they've really learned their lesson?" Torres watched as various species, Council, Earth, and formerly protected races, mingled together, sharing ideas about combining different technologies. "They're learning. And if they forget, we still have plenty of simple guns to remind them with," Reed finished with a smile. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. The Council became a true partnership of equals. Ships carried both energy beams and physical weapons. Shields protected against all types of attacks. And in the Great Council chamber, that simple Earth rifle remained on display. Below it, a small plaque read, "Presented by Earth to the Galactic Council." A reminder that wisdom lies not in the complexity of your weapons, but in remembering that every technology, no matter how simple, has value. And occasionally, when a young species joined the Council, Ambassador Xan would pat the old revolver at his belt and tell them the story of how humanity taught the galaxy to respect the old ways.